This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On Air.
Leading with the why and making sure people are understanding it, but then being absolutely fully transparent. There are very few things you can't be fully transparent about. And we've just done some work on promotions in the context of salary calculations and benefits and so on. And we use the policy there as well. As if we're working on this spreadsheet and by accident somebody looks over your shoulder or you get the permissions wrong, would there be anything to hide? And there just shouldn't be. There shouldn't be a big problem. It might be a bit awkward because you don't like to encourage people to focus on money, but there was nothing anybody can see in there to say, oh, that's a surprise. Because actually, they
that
already
doesn't seem
how.
Fair.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can talk about fairness. Yeah. What's better for people is better for business. It's in an agency, digital agency, your product is your people, right? And so actually what you're trying to do is make these people as brilliant as possible. Our people need to be on when they're on, and recover when they're not. And it's all about when they're on stage. And so how do we construct an environment and provide the support and the flexibility and whatever it takes so that they are on when they need to be on? And that kind of derives the rest of it. It's just business sense. It's not, it's wonderful human stuff as well, which is great, but it's also business sense, right?
Hello and welcome back to the third episode of the Making Work Better series. It's time to stop fracking human resources and to make work humanly sustainable. To help you work out how to do that, I've tracked down the workplaces that are already making work better for people and performance, and I'm bringing you their stories and their strategies. I'm Dr. Denise Quinlan, and today I'm joined by Rob Holmes, Discovery Director at Paperkite, the Wellington-based digital design agency. If you're not familiar with the concept of discovery and why Paperkite doesn't have a sales director, keep listening. There are lots of things that Paperkite does that will surprise and delight you and have you thinking, why don't we try that in our workplace? From a culture of transparency with staff and clients to a flat hierarchy and co-leadership so that the best idea can more often win, and an organization that makes Fridays a time for recharging, mind expanding and sharing gratitude to build trust and creativity. I'm delighted to welcome Rob here. And Rob, you do product and strategy development as well in the digital space?
Yeah, we do. We're known sort of for mobile app development. And so back in the day when apps came on the scene, that was where we're at, but that's evolved for most people, I think. And yeah, we've got product strategy and UX arms to our business now. And of course, discovery.
And discovery. So tell us actually, before we even dive in to talk about your people challenges and how you've been meeting those, just so people know what Paperkite does, tell us a little bit more about those, because I know you've got three kind of arms.
Yeah, well, the bit of the business I'm most passionate about, and it's in my title, is the discovery piece, obviously, where we basically work with people, and we like to emphasize the with. We work with people to explore the problem they're trying to solve, and the fastest and most efficient way to solve that problem. And so in a digital world, people tend to be in the shower or wherever they are, and they come up with an idea, and so often it's an app. I don't know how they get to an app, but it's often a mobile app. And so winding that back is an interesting process to go back and say, okay, well, what's this thing you think you want to solve? What's the problem? And so we help them understand that and wind that forward. And while that's not unique,
then presumably that sometimes you're able to say, well, actually, I don't think an app is the best platform to solve that problem. How about this, or this? Yeah.
Well, even in the most in very commonly, we go and have a look at the problem. We look at the way that other people have solved the problem, and the problem's already solved. And it's a bit foolish to try and solve it again, or there are tools that solve most of the problem, and there's a little gap we could fill. So yeah, it strays into product in terms of how do you then prioritize the things you need to do in product and spend the effort on the right thing, not the wrong thing. And then, of course, if it gets through the sort of typically UX research and understanding the problem stages, it might progress to a build, a prototype, a something in market, and so on. That makes sense.
There's the discovery piece. What are the other two?
Oh, we have UX research, really,
Yeah.
I suppose, which is adjacent to discovery. But then, of course, the build implementation. You need to be
emerging technology.
delivering the technology. Yeah, and it's not just delivering what you know needs, what you've known for years, but the fact that is evolving, it's emerging the entire time. And so experimentation and this experimentation mindset is just essential. And we're going to lead into the next one. With
so you've got
yeah.
You've got a great group of people, and to be as effective as Paperkite wants to be, you need those people buzzing. You need them able to have great ideas, to feel free to innovate. And that's obviously a big people challenge.
So there's always a real sales challenge to say, how are we filling the queue? And is it the kind of work that our people want to do? And underlying in a lot of the people that we have here is it going to make the world better?
Yeah. Nice.
And so yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge, but in terms of being honest about supply and demand, right? When you go through boom and bust, and having a basis on which, when I joined Paperkite, there was a word that was being used, which was family or whānau, in terms of, and it's just inappropriate for the workplace.
Tell me more about what you see as appropriate instead.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, what we believe is that families don't restructure or downsize or have to make hard business decisions and leave one of them out in the cold. Right. And if you set that expectation that will never happen, or even imply it won't happen by the use of that term, I think that's grossly unfair and can feel a real betrayal when you make decisions that are inevitable. There's always going to be times when you have to be bold, so you hire some people in and the experiment doesn't work, and then you may have to change things and move them around. And there's no reflection, almost always no reflection on the performance of the people involved in the process. And yet, if you've talked about it as a family, that can feel off, and I think very off. And so that's not okay. But a community, a team, your people, all those sort of things are better terms. But it doesn't say that it's not a warm, loving community of people working for a common cause and with shared values and all the rest, but it's not a family. There is a line there somewhere.
And I think that speaks to trust, that you're saying we can't, pretending we are a family sets you up for expectations that a business can't deliver on.
Absolutely.
And that's fundamentally, if you like, a breach of trust, or
I think it is. I think
lack of honesty or transparency or
integrity. All of those words are in there, right? And I think if you apply that same sort of thinking to other areas, then that's the right way to go as well. So why leading with the why and making sure people are understanding, but then being absolutely, fully transparent. There are very few things you can't be fully transparent about, and we've just done some literally just done some work on promotions in the context of salary calculations and benefits and so on, and we use the policy there as well, as if we're working on this spreadsheet and by accident somebody looks over your shoulder or you get the permissions wrong, would there be anything to hide?
I love this. Yeah.
And there just shouldn't be. There shouldn't be a big problem. It might be a bit awkward because you don't like to encourage people to focus on money, but there was nothing anybody can see in there to say, oh, that's a surprise. Because actually they
that
already
doesn't seem
how.
fair.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We can talk about fairness.
Yeah. Recruitment and retention issues have varied wildly of late. Do you think organizations care less about work culture when it's easier to hire people?
Yeah, I'd question that. I hope
so.
The difficulty with which you can get anybody, that reduces when the market, turns. But the importance of retaining the people you have at the moment doesn't shift. It's still essential. You know, the every single.
That's a slightly jaded, cynical view. Saying,
I know. You were just reading off the common view, but I think it's
the truth is it always matters.
Yeah, but it's easy to get swept up in that, right? Is that, you know, things are easier now. Retention doesn't matter as much. It's like, it's easier to hire and find people because there are more people on the market. That doesn't mean for a second we value anybody that we've got less.
And if you want to perform at your best, your culture is still essential. You know, absolutely. How you work.
And you want to attract the best. You know, it's absolutely vital that you're always hiring the very best people, in a transparent recruitment and hiring process. They get to meet the people and get a real feel for the place. So there is nowhere to hide on. Oh, we can be a little bit lazy now on creating a great environment for people to work. Right? Just never a thing.
What does that translate into to what you've been building at Paperkite in terms of how you interact with your people, how you look after them, how you motivate them? Because there's a lot of really interesting and innovative things that you've done that I want us to talk about. And I kind of go, I want to start with your core values, because they are really great. They're find the why, embrace our collective genius, always be more better. I like more better as a concept. Champion the end user and tell the kind truth. We've already talked about that we should be able to be transparent and upfront. Yeah. And I like that your website says, be straight up with each other, but don't be a dick about it.
I think that phrase has become a bit old, but it's essentially what it is. It's about. It's just being a good human.
Yeah.
Be good humans. But those values, it's always anybody that's worked in a large organization and, you know, with values always has a bit of a sigh when they see them, I think. But
some places you have a sigh, and some places it's like, yep, this is us and we live it.
Yeah, and it definitely feels like that here. It genuinely does. People use the values and they cite them. We've got, you know, we use Slack and we've got sort of hashtags, and people will genuinely call out the value that they're praising somebody or they're expressing gratitude for, and they'll do it regularly. And they won't. It doesn't look, or it doesn't feel, or it isn't, you know, not genuine. It's genuine, and I think the collective genius and the always be more better things are really common themes that come through. And in developer world, where you build in that attitude or that approach and process, it's really interesting as well. You know, the concept that you submit a suggestion to a change in some software, and you're unable to get it to production without it being reviewed and you processing the feedback and it being better as a result, and then you're releasing it. So, you know, it's sort of in the digital software world, it's unavoidable. You know, this stuff, it's baked in. And if you apply that wider, and we do apply it wider, is that attitude of you don't just do something, you submit something for feedback. Hey, I've done a thing. What do you think?
Your colleagues will always be able to make it better. And if we live with that view, then getting that feedback isn't a criticism. It's support and improvement.
Exactly. And we apply that even, you know, some people say we're crazy, but we do it in the sales process as well. So we sit down, we understand the requirements of whatever else, and we don't. Of course we don't. We've only heard them for the first time. These people have been living in that world for many years, if not decades. Mm-hmm. And so we have a draft, and we send a draft to them, and we say, hey, we think, here's the reverse, here's the first draft of the proposal. This is the direction we're taking it. What do you think? Right?
What have we missed? What have we got right?
Yeah, right. And they wow, that looks like wow, that seems like a lot of effort. We've kind of already solved that problem. And, you've missed this piece completely. We need help for this, and you haven't even included this. Yeah. And all of a sudden we've got a dialogue going on, and we end up in a place where we're much better. And then we do an estimate. We estimate with them in the room. This was a novel concept when I got to Paperkite to say, we're going to do sizing with the client. And they're like, what do you mean? What if we've got questions that, I said, you ask the questions. What if we've got assumptions that we're not sure of? Well, they're there. We can check them really quickly, in real time.
A big commitment to transparency.
Right? Massive.
It's like, we're not trying to pad this out. We're not trying to rip you off. Let's build it with you. Yeah.
So tell me, why do you think that's so complicated? Well, in my experience, this to this. Oh, well, that's not true. That's not true. Oh, then in which case, that's a lot easier. But what about this? Oh, that is true. Okay. Well, and so on. And you very quickly get to what's a reasonable. And the same, and what happens is they bring that same attitude once they see it. They see it on the other side, right? And so
when they get a quote from or an estimate from you, they know that it's being co-constructed, and that where there is time built in, it's because they know it's going to be needed. I worked in consulting for years, and it was always done in the dark, with lots of padding, because it would be more complicated, and we need to allow for that. But we never got to really work with the client close up to do that. Yeah. And I just think
it's trickier. I think as you get bigger, we're at a kind of Goldilocks size, I think, where the people that we bring into the room are the people you're going to be working with. And as you grow as a consultancy, that's just not possible. You don't know if you start the work in 3 months' time, you don't know where people are going to be. So, we're very aware of the fact that we're managing the size, and we're doing it deliberately, not to grow too big so that these things will start falling over. But equally, it's still a hell of a commitment. These are the people that will be on the job. This is why they want to work on your project. This is their particular personal background. These are the strengths they're bringing. Let's get in one room.
So from a people, I can hear why this is really powerful from a client perspective, but I want to flip it around and think about how good it is from your people's perspective. So you're talking about these are the people who are going to be on the job because this is their passion. They care about this work. Yeah. How far is that able to be true? Tell me more about that, because that's the find the why piece for the humans in your work is really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's massively important. We did some brand strategy work. It's always like 12 months longer ago than you think. I'm going to say must be mid.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but early anyway. And so we have this. We put on the wall at the end of the office over there. We have at the center we have the sort of the 3 to 5 year strategy. It's always 3 to 5 years out. And then round it we have the brand piece. And what's better for people is better for business. It's along. Above the strategy at the center and is a brand piece. But also we think of in an agency, digital agency, your product is your people, right? And so actually what you're trying to do is make these people as brilliant as possible. And we did a bunch of work at the start of the brand strategy work, and we had somebody that wasn't us interview some of our clients, both success stories and difficult stories. And they said, what is it about? What is it about Paperkite? And they said, it's the energy that you bring. It's the excitement you bring to the table. And so it is definitely our people need to be on when they're on, and recover when they're not. And it's all about when they're on stage. And so how do we construct an environment and provide the support and the flexibility and whatever it takes so that they are on when they need to be on? And that kind of derives the rest of it, right? So that means that, are they on all the time? Nobody's on all the time.
Yeah, no one. None of us are firing on all cylinders at all time. We all need recovery time, humans do. Yeah.
And what does it take for individuals to be on? Well, that's different. It's different for each person. I personally know I need to go and do hard physical exercise often to be on. And if I don't, I kind of, crack. But other people is like, I just need X, or I just need Y, or I just need, actually this morning I just need to, or this afternoon I just need to nap because I've done my thing this morning. We run big full-on workshops. We had one last week. And it's, 3 or 4 hours of on for the facilitators or the supporters. And then it's off, guys. Then it's off because actually you're a waste of space anyway. do whatever you want. You may want to work on some other tasks in the afternoon. That's your thing, but there's no expectation that you try and remain on for the rest of the day, right? But, yeah.
No, I'm so excited because, you know, one of the things I talk about a lot with people is the idea of a human-centric workplace, a workplace that's designed for human sustainability and performance, you know, and so few of them are. And it is a big commitment. And how did you put that in place? How did you realize it was essential and actually make it happen?
I think give the founder of Paperkite. He's taken a bit of a backseat recently, but give the founder of Paperkite some credit. He left and he experienced some large organizations and enterprises, and most recently, I think it was a bank, and they can be pretty cold places. And he left the bank, and he said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to start something up, and I'm going to create an organization that people want to get out of bed for. You know, that on Monday morning you don't think. And so it's been an evolution from that intent through to some really deliberate design, most recently to carry that out. And to say, actually, that's a great place to start. You know, an organization where people want to get out of bed and come to work. Great, we can run with that. There's a lot to that. Let's slowly do that. Now, I think one of the evolutions is, I mentioned the family to something else, to an organization, to a mature organization. Yeah. But also, as startups tend to be, that it was kind of a bit of a boys' club and a bit of a, had a bit of a drinking thing to it. It was a wonderful, exciting, crazy place to be, as a lot of startups are. But part of what we've done is, particularly in the last 5 years, is take the intent that was there and diversify in terms of and bring in diversity in terms of its people, and allow all sorts of people, color, gender, whatever, to be comfortable here, and all feel and also value that. Have this thing. Actually, if you're gonna be always more better, and you're gonna have embrace collective genius, well, it better be quite a varied set of geniuses in the room. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. So again, why? Because we want to deliver brilliant work but fundamentally, we believe that will come from having this empowered, trusted, diverse workforce. It's just business sense. It's not, it's wonderful human stuff as well, which is great, but it's also business sense, right?
And it is business sense. And I think a lot of organizations get the business sense, but they struggle to deliver on the execution.
Yeah.
And you've put things in place that have allowed you to deliver. Like you don't proceed as the average company. For a start, the fact that you've got a team of leaders rather than a CEO. There is collective involvement in developing your strategic plan.
Courtney Johnson from Te Papa, I crossed over with her when she joined Te Papa. She's wonderful, brilliant, all the rest of it. But she's in a similar situation with Arapata across in Te Papa, where they have co-leadership. And she has this fantastic speech. I invited her to come and participate in a workshop recently here, which of course she did. But she has this wonderful speech early on in her, when she took the role. And it's about the fact that that's bloody hard. That is really hard, because you've got to, because decisions aren't yours, and you can't rely on hierarchy, and you've got all the rest of it, right? But it's so much better. And it's actually, it's a challenge this nation faces, right? Is that actually it's about actually a co-leadership challenge, which I love. I think it's a great way of doing it. But we genuinely feel that's the case, is that as soon as you have to rely on hierarchy or authority or whatever else, then the best idea is not winning, And of course, for it to run, and it runs brilliantly here, but for it to run smoothly, you need to do the hard work. She hasn't felt hard. You have to do the prep, and you have to do the effort, take the effort to make sure that you subscribe to the values, and you understand the direction, and you know what strategy, you understand the why, or whatever else. And then it's almost like when something comes up, you don't hardly need to talk about it. because you kind of know the answer.
Those parameters make it very clear.
Yeah, you know what the right decision is. There's some detail, and that takes a lot of time.
And so the alignment is the big piece.
The alignment's already there, right? And so, but you have to work at that, right? You have to work at that before the particular decisions arrive. So the whole flexible work thing with COVID and whatever else. Big problem? No, not if you've already got the belief that we trust our people.
Yeah.
And actually what efficient work and a good workplace and is different depending on the individual. And it's not about hours worked, it's about outcomes achieved. And so it's just like, well, what's our policy on remote work? Well, it hasn't really changed. It's like it's just become easier and more expected, and people are. So that was easy, The only things were the details in terms of, do we still think being in the same place is often is important in terms of physical proximity? Yes, we do. Do we support remote workers when there's somebody brilliant that can't do that? Yes, we do, because fundamentally the first one overrides the second one. The second one's, so we have Fridays, and Fridays are kind of anchor days, but we have remote people that don't show up for the anchor days because they're in Christchurch or Whistler, or, they're all over the world.
And what's the why behind your anchor days?
Yeah, and
I'm curious because there are a lot of organizations that, first of all, struggle to move to hybrid because they're still hours focused and not outcomes focused. So you had already made that shift, which is the big step. And then,
it's hard. Imagine how hard that is for a digital agency where people expect you to charge by the hour. We get the common. It happens. We don't have sales, we have discovery. So I'm kind of the sales guy because, it becomes a discovery conversation, not a sales conversation, which is so much more fun. But it's like, often it's, okay, so what's your hourly rate? I say, we don't charge by the hour. They go, awkward silence, because especially in government, it's just like, well, Jesus, how am I going to fill in my forms? I say, well, what we do as a compromise is we charge by the sprint or the 2-week block of
work that needs to get done.
Of a team. Right. And so why do you do that? And I said, well, we believe our teams deliver far more value than any other's teams in those 2 weeks. And what it does is encourage us to work on our processes, get more efficient, work together well as a team. So when you get 2 weeks from Paperkite, you get like 4 weeks from somebody else. So how do we price that per hour? We don't. We say, here's your price for a thing. You get to know who's in the thing. You can try and reverse engineer an hourly rate if you want, but it doesn't make any sense because we automate a lot of our work. A lot of our testing is automated. A lot of our processes have been invested in for a long time. You're getting a product which is this 2-week block of this team. You can't compare that with another team.
There's so much in here, Rob, because first of all, we've talked about, how do you enable people to feel trusted, to do their best work? And you've talked about focusing on outcomes, not hours, allowing people to work flexibly, understanding that people are human and that you will, when they're on, and it's up to them to choose how they recover and that you respect that. Yeah. But then this other piece that I think some organizations are getting more quickly than others, but the idea that by really getting our processes dialed in, easy to use for people, for customers, for the clients,
Yeah, well, we encourage people to say, okay, you're on billable work for a client. That's great. We want to keep that high because that's what pays the bills. But I want you to treasure the time when you're not on billable work that improves you and our processes even more highly.
Oh, right?
Nice. So I want you to be excited because you hire driven, passionate people, and they actually get down when they have a gap between things that are perceived as being productive or contributing to the whole. And so we had people arrive and they were, between 2 billable jobs, and you could see their mood. Well, you couldn't see it. We measure it, right? We invite them to give us a mood check. So we could see their mood drop, right? And we're like, what's about that? It's, well, I'm feeling like a bit of waste of space at the moment, right? And so it's just like on that in a shot, right? Because from day one I started, I say, I want you to have this longer term, we call them, the in word is roadmap, right? Rather than plan, but plan So that you're thinking about, over the next few years for your discipline, as we call them, so it might be the user experience discipline, how are we going to improve that discipline? And I want you to be talking to people around you and the other disciplines around you. So how do we improve? Because in the context of improvement at Paperkite, how is your discipline going to improve? And every spare second that you have, I'd like you to be thinking about your part in that and how we improve Paperkite, because that means that effectively the price we can put on that sprint or that 2-week block of work will go up. And it will go up through the fact that word of mouth will say, holy moly, you wouldn't believe what Paperkite delivered in 6 weeks, right? And so that's our sort of why and fundamental, tying all that together to say, so why am I doing this? Why are you doing this? And fundamentally, it means that we will be more successful in an organization. Guess what? When we're more successful as an organization, the gaps in between billable work can be longer and we can improve even faster. Who doesn't want to be part of a machine and individually improving faster? The fastest, Eric Ries, isn't it? The fastest organization, fastest learning organization wins, right?
And so you're saying, yep, billable hours, great, brilliant, love it. Non-billable hours, you're making us better. You're making you better. You're making us better.
Yeah.
And you've also, I love it. And you mentioned also there something that I want to talk to you about as well, because a lot of people come into organizations and feel like they are a resource. You call it your roadmap, people's 2 to 3 year longer term goals about how are you going to grow. Tell me more about that.
Wow. This is part of a lot of stuff we've put in place, but one of these things is that we have, because you sort of, I don't know, you encode these practices in documents fundamentally. Yeah. So we have a document which is your personal goals document when you arrive, and we have a conversation, and people go, oh, that sounds really heavy, and I say no prep required, and we go through it, and in the space of 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, we just have a conversation about where you headed, where you going. And 5 years used to be a thing. 5 years is far too far in the future now. Where are you going to be in 2 to 3 years? Just as can we enlarge the horizon? Let's not think about today, next week, this year. Let's just go a bit further out. Where do you want to be? And people, and we invite them anything, personal goals beyond Paperkite, goals at Paperkite, doesn't matter. Let's get them all out, and we create a real safe conversation environment. And the facilitator, the coach, is just scribing. They talk, we scribe, and then we review. We do it in a Google Doc and we share it with them, so they may have their screen open and they can see the stuff going down, so they can see it in real time. And then we've got an idea of this individual and where they're heading, which is immensely useful, from so many, especially when you've got that flexible work thing. So things come out like, I'd like to get more physically fit, or I'd like to get in the outdoors more, or I'd like to do this, or I've got this personal goal here, or actually I'm not spending enough time with my kids, or actually I definitely, philosophies come out in terms of I work to live, or I live to work, or whatever it is, whichever way around it is. It's like so helpful when you're then coaching and helping this person later on, because you can sort of catch them and say, I thought you said this, and I'm not hearing a lot of that. Just that genuine sort of people-centric coaching. Mm-hmm.
And in that conversation, do you also get a sense of what their deep strengths are, what the things that feed them are, the work they love doing most, the kind of...
absolutely, right? Because it comes through in where they want to be. What do they care about? What do they want to afford? But it's also slightly more structured. It goes 2 to 3 years, and it goes, okay, well, end of this year, if we're going in that direction, where do you reckon we should be? What sort of things should we be saying? How will we know we're, and then depending on how structured that individual wants to be, we can go down to actually in 3 months, what are some things that we might see have happened? How can I support you to make sure those things happen? And then we pick some what we call core capability growth areas and some discipline growth areas. And the core capability ones are the ones that are transferable between discipline. Mm-hmm. I might move from being a developer to being a UX researcher. But those core capabilities are things that in my career are going to be really useful. So there might be presentation skills, or there might be facilitation skills. There could be all sorts of things that doesn't really matter in terms of our definition of discipline. You can move around. And the discipline ones are in your current discipline. And your discipline lead, because you have two, you have a coach and you have a discipline lead. Your discipline lead will help you in your discipline goal area because they're the expert, and your coach will help you in those core areas and also be your pastoral care person, when the wheels fall off.
This is kind of your people lead.
Yeah.
Who looks after the human.
Yeah, in terms of it's a very flat structure. So you can have one or more discipline leads, normally one discipline lead, which is the one that you are. So if you're a developer, you've got a lead developer that's your discipline lead, and you'll have a coach that is not in your discipline, somewhere else in the organization. In theory, it could be everybody. At the moment, it's one of the three leadership team, because we're still babysitting it. We're about to add somebody, but the model was created so that anybody that in there wants to be a coach and we think is able to be a coach can be a coach.
Yeah. This is kind of novel. So talk a little bit about why you split the kind of care and overseeing of people's development into two streams, the discipline lead and the coach or people lead.
Yeah. I think fundamentally because we had witnessed individually in our careers this challenge where somebody gets, it's this promotion to the level of incompetence, but gets promoted in discipline, and then suddenly they're given a team of people and they can't lead people to save themselves. And a lot of the time they're not even interested in leading people, and it all goes terribly wrong. But equally, at Paperkite, we saw people in a situation where even if they'd wanted to and were struggling to do both, because what the expectations we put on a discipline lead is you need to be engaged in client work as well as being an expert in your discipline, and the load was too much. Yeah. It was unrealistic. It was unreasonable, and people were struggling. And so we run everything as an experiment here. So we did an experiment, and we said, okay, well, what if we did take some of these, and also the skills that you need to have for performance or challenging performance conversations, or salary conversations, and or well-being conversations are not the set of skills that necessarily you have as a discipline lead. You may be a brilliant developer that can help somebody level up as
really develop their skills in that area. Yeah,
doesn't mean you're good at the other things, And so, how about we split these, and that's no longer required in one individual. And so, we gave it a shot, and it worked brilliantly.
So what's the feedback so far? Because I'm just like, it's to me, this is kind of the workplace equivalent of parents expecting their children to be Leonardo da Vinci, Renaissance boy or girl, who can do everything well. And the expectation that people will be able to lead technical and people is.
Yeah. Well, it's a huge, right. And you see it, and it's probably one of the most common criticisms of management, isn't it? Is that you just get promoted until you're clearly out of your depth.
And so what's the feedback been from the people who are being looked after by the twin system of discipline? And
it was an experiment, but it wasn't an experiment for long. It was rapidly and clearly a really great thing to do, both from the people who were, from both the discipline leads who you could see would suddenly. I mean,
a load falling off their shoulders.
The joy came back, and this sort of expectation that they weren't meeting. They knew they weren't meeting. They were worried about, because the other thing. There's too much to cover in one conversation. Yeah. But the other thing about we also had this deep-seated belief that because of the challenges of these difficult conversations in the workplace, and often around pay and performance and expectations, is that the people who are generally white males tend to have those conversations more often and more effectively. And so they get paid more, they get appreciated more, they get promoted more, they get whatever else. And what we were absolutely determined to do is to remove that difference that in resulting in pay gaps for all sorts of reasons. But how do we construct a system where it's no longer this terrifying thing, either for a discipline lead or for a staff member or paperkiter, and it becomes a celebration of performance supported by two people that are on your side. And so an important part of this whole process culminates in this we acronyms, but we call it we have you are Paperkite, and it's Paperkite celebrates you basically, and it's a presentation that you do, and it's a celebration of your year, and it's against a scorecard that's a one-page scorecard that's super clear, so your expectations of you are super clear, and it consists of an assessment which is your scorecard plus your progress in your core capability plus your progress in your discipline plus your evidence of living our core values. 4 things, and those have proven to be brilliant ways of measuring performance.
Yeah. Say those again. There's your discipline lead, your core capabilities.
Your first one is your scorecard. So when you come into the business, you've had a job that's been advertised, and it has to have some sort of job description, otherwise you don't know what you're signing up for. But we sit down with you and we say, actually, typically those longer documents are never read again. Let's just ignore it. Let's put together something that fits on one page that has that's 5 or 6 or 4 to 6 points. It sits on one sort of PowerPoint or Google slide. And on the left, it has these things that we're expecting. And on the right, it says how we kind of know that you're doing okay there. Super simple. That's what we need. Okay, that's the first thing. We'll measure you against that because that's kind of why you're here. Fair?
And we all agree that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got a chance to challenge it when you arrive because, and tweak it, right? Because it's vital that you understand what it is. And the next bit is your core capability growth. So it's kind of your performance against scorecard, your evidence of progress and growth. So it's a different way of measuring it because we want to see you grow. We want to see that you've tried and you've failed and you've experimented. So tell us a story in that second one. And the same about the discipline thing. Tell us the story of your year in terms of, are you leaning into chances? Are you reaching out to other people? Are you submitting stuff for feedback? How are you growing in these spaces? And tell us how hard it's been. Because unless it's been hard, you're not putting enough effort in. It's just like be honest. And the last bit is the core values, right? In terms of actually, it's not just about you. A lot of the things baked into and how you're working well with others, how you're living what Paperkite stands for. And so you kind of self-score on that, but it's more about the presentation. And we have this, again, there's too much to talk about there, but we have every Friday we have a gratitude session where people express gratitude for what other people have done during the week that's helped them out or whatever else. And when you first witness one of these gratitude sessions, you think, this is a bit weird. And then 2 or 3 weeks in, you think, no, this is just wonderful. This is really genuine stuff. And so there's a lot of things that in that gratitude session and expressed through the various digital tools that we have where people acknowledge great stuff. Parenting, right? 5 bits of positive for every bit of correction.
So you've got the gratitude session, and I know you've got a positivity channel on Slack.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And interesting because there's really good research around preventing burnout and enabling psychological safety and good performance, that people feel seen and valued, and that we share the positive impact that their work has on others with them. And
right. This is not by chance.
So I'm so intrigued because despite the fact that research exists, despite the fact that a lot of people know it, they still go, gratitude session, oh, twee or hokey, we haven't got time for that. Yeah. What enabled you to get past those kind of sentiments and actually get in and do it and have it appreciated?
Good question. We have people we start people on a Friday always, because the Friday is deliberately a complete write-off. So they get to meet people and they get to relax and they've got no expectations on them at all and whatever else, and they just get orientated. And in that Friday session, as we call them, there's a session at the end of Friday where we share there's a Mahi Matters session where people share what they're working on so that people can learn and whatever else. And there's often a Friday session where we invite people from outside to challenge us or come and talk to us about, we had somebody recently about their life in terms of they're a refugee from Cambodia and the way they grew up and where they progressed in their professional career. So we do that. So Fridays are a massive highlight, right? In terms of it's a real payback for Paperkiters. Right a Friday afternoon off. It's just absolutely about us. And
it's about filling your cup, isn't it? It's about
recharging and mind expanding and sharing, basically, and so by the end of that single Friday, people will express gratitude. That person that's arrived will witness a couple of people just naturally, comfortably expressing gratitude for others and will participate. And it blows me away.
Yeah.
They will feel the confidence and the comfort to call out a couple of people and quite often just say, hey, I'm feeling really comfortable here.
Yeah.
Right? In the space of a day, which is nuts, right? And so it's just that the culture that's come through and they've felt genuinely through the day means that they get it. This is not lip service.
I think that's the big thing. Yeah. That is the big thing, isn't it? Most organizations want to prevent burnout. They want to keep their people performing sustainably at a really high level to be able to innovate. But not all organizations have walked that talk. You have. Your Friday description is just outrageously gorgeous. What you're just describing is what a lot of organizations don't do. It's you put your money where your mouth is. You say people need to feel part of something. They need to feel their work matters. So Mahi Matters and sharing that time to share says we really value learning. We really value what you're doing and how people can learn from you.
We must have people who are curious and feel that they are rewarded for curiosity.
Yeah.
It is essential and it must come through, in a digital agency in front of clients.
Yeah.
That's what comes through. The fact we're excited and we're curious and we want to know more, right? So sort of informed, curious and, into it. Yeah.
And making it so that you actually value time for people to share what they're doing with others. And, that's your commitment to collective genius, that you sharing it will make them better and them hearing will be able to make you better.
Yeah. And the act of presenting gets your thoughts together, right? Everybody knows that, right? So that you're getting more junior staff up in front because
you're presenting to their peers. Always, you're always most on your mettle when you're presenting to your peers.
It's really helpful, and a lot of the core capability growth areas are in that space. How do we like to gently nudge people? How do you scale your impact?
Nice.
And so scaling your impact means getting in front of people.
Yeah.
And sharing and being confident and accepting feedback. So.
And then your gratitude session, as well as the practical importance of connecting people to their positive impact and building connection. I'm guessing it's not, for some people, there's vulnerability in speaking up. That there's so much learning in this when you actually look at unpacking what's involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're most commonly, not always, thanking somebody for their assistance with something, for their help with something. And I know that's what you're getting at, but it's like, in order to do that, you need to be comfortable that you don't know everything. And nobody in this room assumes you know everything.
Yeah.
And in fact, everybody welcomes the fact that you're admitting that you don't and you need help and you need assistance. And we're better if everybody just has the conversation that needs to be had now rather than 6 weeks' time when you have to.
When something fell over.
You didn't know it.
And so that gratitude session reinforces the values and trains people in sharing, in that psychological safety that we know is vital for, and trust for the creativity and innovation you want. What people are writing off as a fluffy waste of time, you've been able to demonstrate how it is a practical support and engine for growing the other attributes and capabilities.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely essential. And I think it does go back to that parenting principle where you praise the behavior you want to see more of.
Yeah.
But there's all sorts of other ways to try and change behavior. Nothing is as effective as praising and publicly praising the behavior you want to see more of. And it's not coming from just the parent, it's coming from peers in this environment.
Oh, so powerful. So
right?
powerful. Yeah.
So everybody's praising them. And sometimes they'll reference the values and they'll do it genuinely. But even if they don't, people know its value that
relates to,
in the background. And so you're just this organization that is course correcting and through praising good.
Rob, thank you for joining me today. I know our listeners will take away ideas and practical actions and really be inspired by Paperkite's ability to live your values and create a learning organization where people actually want to come to work. I'll put links in the show notes to Paperkite's website and values and a link to the Making Work Better report. Kudos, hats off. Thank you. It's been a real treat to get to talk to you about it. Thanks for making the time available.
No problem at all. Come, be in touch.
You've been listening to Making Work Better, recorded for RFM Dunedin. To learn more about how you can make work better for yourself, your team, or your workplace, keep listening to this series and go to nziwr.co.nz to download your free copy of the Making Work Better report. Thanks for listening today. If you've enjoyed the show, please rate the podcast to help others who might benefit from it find it more easily.
This podcast was produced by OAR FM Dunedin with support from New Zealand On the Air.